Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is the video edition of my Tech Guy podcast. The shows you're about to see were edited down from Saturday and Sunday, January 15th and 16th, 2011, episodes 735 and 736. Enjoy. Well, a good day to you. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And it's time. You know, I just got a nice giant pop filter on my microphone, and I'm popping more than ever. I'll sit back. The Tech Guy. I'm here to talk about... See, these things don't work. These things. You just have to stop popping, Leo. I'm here to talk about tech. Back from the Consumer Electronics Show. I hope you got to hear our shows last week. I know they were a little bit of a departure, a change of pace from our usual thing because I didn't take any phone calls. We'll do that today in spades. I'll make up for it, I promise you. But last week it was all, you know, I called it the conveyor belt of gadgets. All the newest stuff from the Consumer Electronics shows. Most of it won't be available till later this year. Maybe some of it never. But that's the fun of the Consumer Electronics Show, seeing stuff that may never come out, seeing what the technology industry says. Would you be interested? Maybe you'd be interested in this. Oh, maybe you might like that. Oh, you think anybody will want this? That's really what it is. And we went in thinking. I've been to quite a few of these over the years. And before the Consumer Electronics Show, an event that was very similar for the computer industry called Comdex. For many, many years. And I learned early on that it's best to go with an open mind because you get there and what you thought was going to be the big story often isn't. For instance, this year I think everybody said, oh, tablets, tablets, tablets. I walked by the, was it CNN or CNBC? I walked by a television booth. You know, they have these big glitzy booths on the show floor. And I heard the woman, tech reporter saying, yes, I call this CES the tablet smackdown. Well, she obviously wrote that copy before she got there. Because, yes, there were a lot of tablets, but it was definitely not the only story at CES. Yeah, the 3D TVs were back. But, as I guess one might expect, after you put out 3D TVs, what's next? Well, you got to put out 3D camcorders so people will make their own 3D movies. There were a lot of those, most of them not so hot. In fact, my counsel would be wait a little bit on 3D camcorders if you're so inclined because, well, you can't edit the video. You can't really do much with it unless you just hook up the camcorder to the TV and watch. Oh, look. Sister Sally's coming right at you. No, get back. There were also, you know, last year was the year of the e-book readers. Boy, they were not in much display this year. Kindle just dominated with the Nook second, and that was it. Sony in third place, far behind. You know, we saw a lot of Android devices, including Parrot had a in-car dash-mounted unit, kind of like your car stereo, but it was an Android device that, you know, you could put apps on, and it's kind of interesting. We saw a lot of iPad clones, but not as many as one might have thought. I do have to say that my favorite object at the show, my favorite product at the show was, in fact, a tablet, a competitor to the iPad. A lot of companies gave the Motorola Xoom with an X. Xoom. 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 See, why? Just use a Z. Xoom. How do you pronounce that? Zoom. Why didn't you use a Z? Well, because it's an X. But it looks like it's Xoom. No, it's just Zoom. Okay. Motorola got a lot of attention, but I thought, you know, I wasn't going to give it any awards only because they weren't letting anyone touch it. That's a bad sign. And they didn't even really use it themselves. If you watched carefully, all of that touching they were doing to the screens in the announcement and the demos on the booth, were playing back a video. That's really what they were doing. A video of the operating system working. Well, I'm sorry. I think I'll hold off on that one. That's what I did. I mean, to be fair, that's what I did with BlackBerry's playbook. BlackBerry, you know, the first thing they showed was a piece of black plastic. Look, it's going to look like this. I found it hard to get excited. Then they said, well, look, we'll show you how it works. You can't touch it. No, don't touch it. I still found it hard to get excited, but at CES, we were able to touch it. We were able to use it. And you know what? It's good. It's good. For those of you who were saying, oh, it's all over for RIM and BlackBerry, you know, they can't compete with the iPhone and the Android onslaught. You don't write them off yet. Yeah, which I'm happy to say. Don't write them off yet. I think that BlackBerry playbook was very sweet. The Motorola Xoom is roughly the same size as the iPad. It's 10 inches, but the playbook is a 7-inch. And, you know, remember Steve Jobs saying, oh, nobody wants a 7-inch. I think that was a sign that he kind of knew. Here it comes. Here comes the 7 inches. Because a 7-inch, just a little smaller, still very usable, still a tablet, no question. But you can put it in your, you know, like your coat pocket or your purse very easily. And I think there's something to be said for that. It's a little bit more portable. Of course, the big story, as has happened in the last few years, the big story at CES wasn't even at CES. Apple doesn't have a booth there. And I think Apple's like a little kid who's, you know, they choose not to have a booth there. It's not like they're locked out. Believe me, they'd love to have Apple at the CES, this Consumer Electronics Show. It's the biggest consumer company, electronics company in the world, right? Apple's the one. But Apple, you know, is so big, they say, we don't need a show. We don't need a trade show. We'll just do it on our own. But they still remind me of that little kid who's outside the fence looking in going, hey, over here, look at me. However, it's really more, maybe it's more like an elephant outside the fence going, because you can't avoid looking over there. Last year, the specter of the iPad hovered over CES, and that's all anybody talked about, even though they hadn't even announced it. This year, everybody said, when Verizon iPhone. I got up early, not early enough as it turned out, to go to the 9 a.m. keynote speech on Thursday by Ivan Seidenberg, the CEO of Verizon. I thought this is the time they're going to announce it. So I got up. I got there at 9. No, it's all full. I said, what? They said, yeah, full. I said, but I'm pressed. They said, if you, you're pressed. Well, you should have gotten here at 7:30. That's when we let the press in. 7:30? Sorry, no. I watched it on TV. And interesting, he didn't say a word about a Verizon iPhone. The later that day, invitations go out to the Apple press, not the Verizon press, not the Gadget press, not Gizmodo, not me, the Apple press, saying, we're going to have a little event next week. Why don't you come on by New York? And, of course, that's all everybody's talking about CES. Oh, Verizon's going to announce the Verizon iPhone. Oh, that turned out to be probably the big story at CES. Oh, well, there was one more story, and I thought this was very interesting. And I want to give you a disclaimer. Because Ford Motor Company is a sponsor of my podcast. They're a big sponsor of ours. I drive a Mustang. I love Ford. But I think I'm not alone. I think everybody agrees. This was a big shock. Ford announced a new car at CES, not at the Detroit Auto Show, which is going on now in Detroit. That's where you usually announce the new cars. They announced it at the Consumer Electronics Show, and it's really a statement by Ford, and a statement that was, I think, well received and understood, that today a car almost is a consumer electronic device. And these new Fords really, and so they announced their Ford Focus Electric, their first electric vehicle, which would be out next year. It's not even going to be out this year. It's going to be out in 2012. But it's very sweet. And is really loaded with consumer electronics stuff. I thought that was very interesting that they did that at CES, not at the Detroit Auto Show. And I have to say, in some ways, it's a coming of age now. You've got the Nissan Leaf. You've got, which I haven't driven, but I have driven the Chevy Volt, which I love. I think that's a great electric car. That's a smart one because it has a little gas engine in it. The engine doesn't drive the powertrain, but it keeps the battery charged, so it has kind of infinite range. And now you've got Ford moving in. And Ford did something I thought very clever. They have their one assembly line builds all different kinds of Focuses, gas, diesel, hybrid, and electric. so they can, supply the demand as needed. Very interesting. Well, we'll talk with you in a minute. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Michael in Escondido, the first caller of the day. Hey, Michael, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. How you doing?
I'm good. You going to buy a Verizon iPhone?
I'd like to, but I'm not sure if that's going to be in the budgets right now.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do it.
These phones are so expensive. I think people ignore how expensive these phones are. They're, $200 to buy, but then it's $100 a month for 2 years. It's more expensive than a desktop computer. It's twice a desktop computer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've got an iPod Touch, and that serves me pretty well. So,
yeah.
And where I teach, I have Wi-Fi there, and then at home I've got Wi-Fi. So that's pretty much most of the places I am. So I can use that and get just about everything with that. So
that's a great solution. People sometimes say, "I need a PDA. What should I get?" Get an iPod Touch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Yep. Anyway, the reason I'm calling is that I teach kindergarten, and I was looking for an application to use on my iPod Touch that would randomly select students in my classroom.
Oh.
And I found a couple of solutions for that. But
I bet you one of them is a dice rolling app.
Well,
for Dungeons and Dragons, because
I didn't even see that one.
I bet you there's a dozen of those, because sometimes in Dungeons and Dragons you need a 30-sided dice. So you just say, well, you got 28 students. I have a 28-sided dice.
Exactly, that would work.
That would work.
Yeah, well, I found one that was that worked out fairly well, but and I was using it a number of times in my classroom, and then I had a colleague of mine that came up to me, and I was showing her the program, and she said, "Well, that's really nice, but can you record the responses?"
Oh.
And that kind of made me think, well, hey, that would be a great idea. So I was looking for that. I couldn't find it.
So when you say record their responses, you mean have them have?
Well,
what
not
would you
have
do?
them record. No, but just a correct or incorrect response.
So it would be essentially a teacher's roster in an iPod Touch.
Exactly. So I was looking for that, and then she had said this, and I thought, well, and then I went back and I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it. Couldn't find it anywhere. So I thought, well, you know what? I've never dealt with programming at all. I've never really, I did BASIC when I was back in elementary school, and just tinkered with that a little bit, but never really did much with it. And then I was thumbing through the bookstore and found a couple of iPhone programming books, and they said, you needed to learn C programming and then learn Objective-C, and I thought, well, I've got a little bit of time, so I'll try and just try my hand at it. So I picked up a little bit of C and Objective-C, and then
oh my goodness, I'm so impressed, Michael.
Just kept working at it, and it really was quite a challenge. And I actually came up with my own application. And
you wrote one. Did you get it approved?
Yes, I got it approved. And
Michael, that's impressive. How long did that take? How long did the whole process take?
Well, I started probably at the beginning of last summer, and got it actually finally approved, I believe, in October.
What's it called? So, I've got to download this and take a look at it.
It's called Pupil Picker.
Pupil Picker.
Yes.
I like it. Yeah. And so do you put in the class roster in there, so when you press the Pupil Picker, it gives the name of the student?
What it does is it uses the address book.
Oh, so you get them in your contact list. Okay.
Yeah, you use your contact list, and then you make a group.
Okay.
And then it picks students from that group.
Beautiful. So you could have, first period, second period, third period, or you could have,
exactly.
19. Oh, that's kids from the first day, beginning of the day. That's really neat. Pupil Picker. I love it.
Yeah. And then what it does is that when it after you get through doing after the lesson, then you can press email, and it'll email you all the results.
Oh man.
And then with those results, you can make groups and make different things like that. So
I did a Google for Pupil Picker, and I see that you are in fact picked by a number of lists for great software for teachers and stuff like that. I mean, this is a great idea.
Yeah, one of my biggest questions though is getting the word out to other teachers.
Right. Well, that's one way to do it. If you look online, you'll see a number of lists. I'm looking at one at oedb.org, which is the online education database. top 50 iPhone apps for educators. Those are the lists you want to get on, right? So, I mean, you did the right thing by calling me. Certainly, you know, there's probably 5,000 or 10,000 teachers who are listening now who are about to go say, wow, for 99 cents, I'm going to buy that. And I like it that you have a picture of a pupil on the icon. I think that's great. So now they know about it. So that's a start. But this is a general audience. And if you have something specific like that, you really want to get to the audience that's most likely to use it. Teachers.
Yeah, right.
So this is kind of the general marketing advice for anybody who has something that they want the word to get out about online, whether it's your blog, it's an application, it's a video on YouTube. You go to where the audience is and you let them know. And so in this case, what I would do is send an email out to, look for these lists of apps for educators. I would send an email, for instance, to the online education database and say, hey, I just want to let you know I'd like to send you a code for a free copy. You know, see if you can figure out who the influencers are, who writes those articles. This one was published in 2008. I bet they're due for a new one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's because if I'm a teacher, that's where I'm going to be more likely to see what I'm looking for. If you're a sailor and you're looking for a nautical app, you're more likely to see it in yachting magazines than you are just listening to a radio show. I mean, certainly it doesn't hurt to. And the other thing is, of course, if you can get kind of critical mass, if you can get a few hundred teachers using it, they'll tell, each of them will tell a few hundred and so on. So word of mouth is in every case, even when you're, Coca-Cola, word of mouth is the most important form of advertising. So start with finding out where your audience lives online. Go to those places. Whether it's forums, it's fine in most cases to go to forums for educators and say, hey, if you're looking, tell your story exactly as you told it. I love it. I'm a kindergarten teacher, not a programmer. I was looking for a solution, and I couldn't find one, so I wrote it.
Yeah.
And it's 99. See, the nice thing about the App Store is everybody can find it easily. It's not expensive, and you have this installed base of 50 million people. Of whom, I don't know, 1% are teachers. That's 500,000 teachers.
That's true.
You know, that's $500,000 to you. Have you made some money on it?
Not much.
Yeah.
You
didn't do it to make money, or you would have charged more than $1. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it'd be nice to make a little bit, but I'm not doing it primarily to make the money.
And the ratings are very positive on this. You've got 4+ stars, and I bet you're getting good feedback, which is kind of nice.
And actually, it's really interesting. I've been communicating with a couple of people. I have one person from England and one person from Australia, and it's been.
That's the best part of this, if you ask me. You don't do this. You don't do podcasting to make money. You don't do these programs to make money. You do them for the community that you build, and that can really be valuable too. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Congratulations, Michael. So how many of you are going to run out and buy a Verizon? I'm very curious, the Verizon iPhone announcement, very curious. And now, let me tell you the pros and cons. I know a lot of people who are on Verizon were waiting, right, for a Verizon iPhone. They said, oh, I really would love an iPhone, but I don't want to go to AT&T. I hear all these bad things about it. So I think that's probably, those are the people that Verizon's most likely to win over right away, right? Current Verizon subscribers, especially those who are due for a update to their phone. Every 2 years you get a new phone at the fully subsidized price, in this case $200. But you might want to wait, and I'll tell you why. We know that if Apple sticks to its schedule, there'll be an iPhone 5 this year, probably sometime May or June, maybe sooner, maybe later. This iPhone from Verizon kind of throws a monkey wrench, but basically it's an iPhone 4. It's last year's model, and we're pretty sure. I mean, I see no reason to think that Apple won't release a new model this year. And what might a iPhone 5 on Verizon have? I would guess it'll have LTE. It'll have the 4th generation data network, which this current one does not. So I guess the question to ask yourself, if you're a Verizon customer, you're due for an upgrade, and you really have wanted this iPhone for a while, and you just can't wait. The question to ask yourself is, how will you feel in June if Apple says, and now on Verizon, the iPhone 5 with 4G? I don't know what other features Apple might bundle into an iPhone 5. In fact, maybe they won't do an iPhone 5 because they pretty much got everything, right? What would let me ask you, let me pose you this question. What would you want to see in an iPhone 5 that isn't in the iPhone 4? I mean, all I could think of is 4G for Verizon, but maybe there's other stuff. And do you think Apple will do an iPhone 5 this year? And if they do, will they release it on Verizon? Maybe they'll only this would make people mad. They'd only release it on AT&T and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Verizon customers, you don't get a new phone until next year." Ooh, that would make people upset. So before you run to the Verizon store and get an iPhone, you'll be able to pre-order Feb 3 if you're existing customers, Feb 10 if you're not. And they'll be delivering February 10th. Before you rush, think about that. How will you feel if come June, Apple announces and Verizon announces an iPhone 5, and you're not due for an upgrade for 18 months? It's a very interesting question. And the subsidiary question, what could they possibly put in the iPhone 5 to make you feel that way? David, Philadelphia, PA. Hey, David, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey.
Longtime fan since ZDTV, so great to talk to you. I really appreciate everything you're doing with the network.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. He's talking about our podcast network, the TWiT network, which we're basically turning into a kind of a 24/7 video, audio, broadcasting technology network. And we're building a new studio for the summer. And you might be glad to hear, David, we hired the set designer who did the Tech TV Screensavers show set.
That's great.
It was a beautiful set. And I told him, Roger Ambrose is his name, I said, we don't have as much money as Tech TV did, but I sure would like it to kind of feel, not the same, but feel a little bit like the Screensavers did. So
awesome.
that could be cool.
All right. Well, on the topic of the iPhones and Verizon, yes. I am a Verizon cell customer right now, and I want to finally make the jump to a smartphone. But I do not want to pay the $2,000 a year for the data plan.
Well, it's not a year. It's over 2 years. So it's a roughly, I don't know what Verizon's data rates cost, and of course you'll have to pay more for hotspot and so forth. But I would guess that a smartphone, there's almost all of them are $200 up front. That doesn't even matter because in the long run you're spending roughly $80 to $100 a month for data, voice, the works. Multiply that times the 2-year requirement, you're talking probably at least $2,000. So that phone's going to cost you at least $2,000. Is this phone worth $2,000 to you? That's the question you got to ask.
Exactly, and I don't think it is. So what I want to do is buy a smartphone at full retail price and be able to use it with just a voice and text plan without a data plan. And I was wondering if you had any recommendations for how I could do that, what I could get, and anything else I would need to know.
That's an interesting question. And then use the Wi-Fi for the smartphone features, but not the 3G.
Correct.
I'll tell you up front that most of the carriers, if you go to Verizon and say, "I want an iPhone," we'll just say, "Fine, you're gonna pay the data rate." They won't sell it to you. Now, Verizon has not, as they've been cagey. They haven't said what they're going to charge or what they're going to do. If it'll be unlimited, if it'll be 2 gigs, they haven't said. So we don't know yet. But if they're true to form, and I'm sure they will be, they're going to require you, as every other carrier does, if you buy a smartphone, you got to buy the smartphone plan because they don't want people like you freeloading. They want the money. So you're going to be paying full price for essentially what is an unlocked phone. I would inquire. I'm guessing. By the way, and this is my favorite phone. It's the phone I use every day. Google sells something called a Nexus S. They just started doing this. They sell it at Best Buy. It's basically a Galaxy S class phone, the Samsung Galaxy S class phone, unlocked, but it's expensive because of that. It's $500. But unlocked. It does have Wi-Fi. Then you put a SIM card in it, and I don't think you're required to sign up for T-Mobile. I think you can put a T-Mobile card in it and just don't tell T-Mobile. T-Mobile doesn't know. Say, I'm using a feature phone. So they'll give you voice calls on this only. And I think
T-Mobile and a T-Mobile SIM card?
Well, you don't. You could use AT&T. You have to use GSM. And since you're not using 3G, the reason people don't generally use AT&T with this Nexus S is because it doesn't support AT&T's 3G network. It only supports Edge. But you don't care, do you? So you could use it with AT&T. It has to be a GSM phone, a GSM carrier.
Okay.
So, and the reason that it's going to be harder to do it with a CDMA phone, which is Sprint, Verizon, is because the CDMA phones have to be programmed to be usable. At that point, the carrier knows what you got. And they're going to say, well, I won't program it unless you buy a data plan. You can shop around. You may be able to find, Sprint might say, no, you don't have to buy a data plan. I don't know for a fact. Maybe somebody in the chat room can help me out. But I'm pretty sure you could buy this Nexus S unlocked, put an AT&T or a T-Mobile SIM in it, and just say, I don't want a data plan, I just want phone, and then use the Wi-Fi. Now, not everything will work without some 3G backend. A few, not all, most programs will work. But maybe there are a few programs, I'm kind of speculating, that say, well, we got to have a 3G connection for something. Like Skype might say, I have to be able to make a 3G connection. But I suspect you could probably get away with it. The other way to go would be to get as we were talking earlier, get an iPod Touch, which is a total Wi-Fi thing, and use Skype on it to make phone calls, because that'll work. But it won't be a phone unless you're in a Wi-Fi area, and if you want a phone, then you'd have to carry a separate phone.
Yeah, looks like I'll be looking for something GSM.
Yeah, I think you're stuck with GSM.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's good to talk to you. And chat room, if you have some suggestions for a carrier, maybe there's all these little guys, right? That maybe one of the little guys will, like Metro PCS or somebody, might be able to do that. Unlocked, no data plan, and then use Wi-Fi. That would certainly be the cheapest way to do a phone. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More of your calls. 8888 Ask Leo coming up. Uncle Big 2 in the chat room has posted a Wikipedia link that shows the entire list of U.S. wireless carriers. And there are a lot of them. A number of them are what we call MVNOs. An MVNO is not really they're reselling somebody else's service. A mobile virtual network operator is reselling somebody's service. So 7-Eleven Wireless, for instance, I didn't even know they had it, is using AT&T or Sprint. Airlink is using Sprint. But there's Alaska Communications System, Alaska Digital, a lot of Alaska. I guess, it makes sense that in Alaska, where there's probably not a lot of infrastructure, people put stuff in. There's Alltel, Amerilink, Appalachian, AT&T, Beyond Mobile Blue Wireless, Bluegrass Cellular. Yeah, baby. They're not an MVNO, believe it or not. They must have put their own towers in. Boost Mobile uses Sprint. Broadpoint, Call for Care, Caprock Cell. That's just the C's. Look at these. This is the longest list I ever saw. So there are a lot of carriers. I always think of the big four, Sprint and Verizon. They use the CDMA network. And AT&T and T-Mobile that use the GSM network. I'm a fan of the GSM network because it works internationally. So if you travel, it's really, having a GSM phone is nice. I mean, you can get a world phone from the other carriers. Basically, it's dual band. It does both. But I like GSM. So I like AT&T, T-Mobile. And I love one of the features of GSM I really like is that the way you program a phone is by putting in a little chip, what they call a SIM card. And so your SIM card is you. That's your account. So you can buy unlocked phones for GSM carriers, phones that aren't tied to any particular carrier. Pop a SIM card in, and now it's your phone. You don't even have to notify the carrier that you're doing it. I think that's ideal for flexibility. If you travel and you want to have a phone number in Egypt, you go to Egypt, you buy a SIM card, you pop it in your American unlocked phone. Doesn't have to be unlocked. And now you have an Egyptian phone number. Things like that. So I think it's nice and flexible. On the other hand, I have to admit that Sprint and Verizon often have the best phones. Some of the best phones are CDMA. So I solved the problem by having a contract with each. And at least one or two numbers with each. So I have a phone for every carrier. But that's my job, isn't it? I wouldn't recommend it. Speaking of Wikipedia, happy birthday, 10th anniversary today of the online encyclopedia. Wikipedia has changed its logo to celebrate it. It says 10 years. It's a puzzle piece in the upper left-hand corner. And they are celebrating 10 years. I think that's amazing. In fact, there are parties all over the world, 435 parties all over the world you can go to. I think this is appropriate. I think we should celebrate Wikipedia. I know some people, especially educators and librarians, say, well, Wikipedia is not always accurate. But I have to say, they don't say it like that. I should give them more credit. But I have to say, Wikipedia, I think, is the single best demonstration of what the Internet is capable of. It is an encyclopedia that was created by users, and it is amazingly accurate, given that occasionally vandals sneak in bad stuff. But on any article that has a number of editors, you can pretty much be assured that the contents in there are every bit as good and sometimes better than a print encyclopedia. It's one of the reasons Britannica and World Book are saying, well, we don't have much of a future. Somebody did a study, I think it was a British scientific journal, did a study of accuracy in Encyclopedia Britannica and Wikipedia and found that they were roughly equal in inaccuracies. Both had inaccuracies. It's just different models. The Encyclopedia Britannica, or any encyclopedia, or in fact any print volume, is generally written by experts. You're going to write an article on geology, you go to a geologist, or two or three, and have a panel of them, and they write the article. And so because it's written by experts, you can presume this is kind of what the current thinking is on something. Wikipedia doesn't vet its writers. Anybody can write the article on geology. But what happens in most cases, if the articles are popular, if there are a lot of people with an interest in it, is, interestingly enough, the number of authors kind of moves the article towards accuracy, to the point where almost all the articles on Wikipedia, with a few stunning exceptions, are really good. And the more controversial a topic is, frankly, the better the articles are. Because these editors work hard to make them complete and accurate. And I think that Wikipedia is a marvel. I'm a donor. I encourage people to donate. Jimmy Wales, a guy who started Wikipedia, I've interviewed him many times, said, I said, Jimmy, you put one ad on every page with the hundreds of millions of page views you get every month. You'd have $20 or $30 million a year to run Wikipedia. More, probably. He said, I don't want to ever put ads on Wikipedia. The whole point of Wikipedia is that it is an independent entity. It is not advertiser-driven. It's driven by the community. We want to be donation-based. And so that's why for the last month or two, you probably noticed on Wikipedia a big banner saying, please donate. They need people to donate so that they can stay ad-free. And, there's a lot of servers. It's not a cheap thing to run Wikipedia. The good news is it is well supported by the community. And, boy, I just think it's an amazing resource. Maybe, I know a lot of schools and teachers say you can't use Wikipedia. I guess what I would say is to students is don't use Wikipedia as your sole source for any fact. But you probably shouldn't use any source as your sole source for any fact, should you? But Wikipedia is a great starting point for almost any research that I do, and I use it daily. And if you are somebody who uses it regularly, you ought to pony up $5, $10. What's it? I mean, think about what it really is worth to you. I bought, I don't know why, when my kids were young, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. My daughter's 18 now, my son's 16. So yes, probably 10 years ago. I bought the World Book, probably the last World Book published. I don't know. I have it right there on the shelf. Because when I was a kid, we had an encyclopedia, and I just loved reading the encyclopedia. I thought, this is great. I think it was expensive, right? It was thousands of dollars. Take that money and put $10 a year towards Wikipedia. Because I tell you what, it's every bit as good as that World Book Encyclopedia on the shelf, and the kids are much more likely to read it. So happy birthday. Happy birthday, Wikipedia. Jeff, Santa Barbara, California, you're next. Leo Laporte. He's running to the phone. Leo Laporte. Or did I scare you? The tech guy. Hi, Jeff.
Hi. It's so nice to talk to you. The information you provide, especially the most up-to-date on cell phones, it's great.
Thank you.
Hearing all this stuff. Hey, I had a question. When you get the iPhone, after your 2-year contract is up, if you don't wish to continue with the contract, do the rest of the iPhone features work as
yes,
like an iPod would?
Yes, you can make it an iPod Touch. Basically, no phone service, but it will continue to work on Wi-Fi, so it becomes an iPod Touch.
Okay. And is there SIM card for the iPhone proprietary, or do SIM cards pretty much all?
They did an interesting thing. You know, the earlier iPhones used standard SIM cards, and you could swap one in. They changed to a micro SIM, which is now being widely used in Europe and Asia, but it hasn't been much used in the U.S. yet. So I don't know why Apple did it. Probably not for any nefarious reason. Probably they just thought, well, this is more compact, takes up less space, so let's use it. So in theory, you can swap SIM cards, and I know people who have taken the iPhone to Europe or somewhere else and taken out the SIM card and put in a micro SIM. But you need to have a micro SIM, not a standard SIM. You can actually the chip content's the same, so you can actually take a regular SIM card, cut off some of that paper, and make it a micro SIM. It's just smaller.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you'd asked earlier what features might be nice to have, and unfortunately I can't remember the carrier, Verizon or T-Mobile, but they're showing a commercial right now on television where the actors are using the iPhone on FaceTime, and he steps out of the Wi-Fi circle, and his signal starts to degrade. And then the competitor, who's obviously it's their commercial, they say, "Too bad, with our phone, with FaceTime or whatever they're calling their version of it, they said you don't need a Wi-Fi. You can just talk."
It's Sprint. It's Sprint with the Evo. There are Skype now on the iPhone. Will work with 3G, and will use, I think it will use the front-facing camera. Yes, I know it will, because we've used it. There's a program called Fring that will. It's just FaceTime that only uses Wi-Fi. So it's a software, not a hardware thing. Tango is another one I've used. That's a really cool Skype-like program that will use the front-facing camera and Wi-Fi. So it's merely a restriction that Apple has arbitrarily put on its own program. I'm not sure why. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Dick DeBartolo is the crazy man at Mad Magazine for the last 4 decades.
You know, I'm using Carbonite now, Leo, and I can't wait for a hard disk failure.
Yeah, you're just dying for something to go wrong.
I just knocked a bottle of Coke Zero over my hard drive, hoping that it shorts out.
I hope it doesn't.
I hope it doesn't, too. Yeah. No, I used Leo. I used Lisa, Tom Merritt, Abby. I got 9 months free.
Oh, you just used everybody's code. All right, so okay.
No, I used the name. I got my 14 months.
Oh, good. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, you get 14 months for the price of 12. So now, Dick, I'm guessing that the company's Bose.
No.
Nope. So it's a big speaker company. They make very expensive speakers. I don't know.
The entire line, but the top end is a home theater system, about $2,000.
Okay.
And we found this at Showstoppers, and I said, the guy demonstrated it, and I said, well, what is this going to cost?
I wish I had mine here. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, did you get one?
I got one. I think I did. Tell me what it is.
The Hipbox.
No, I didn't. What the heck
Pure
is it?
Acoustics.
I didn't get a Hipbox. What's a Hipbox?
Okay. Hipbox from Pure Acoustics. It's a little portable speaker system with a built-in internal battery that you charge. You get about, what did they say, 4 hours of playback time. So you can either use the headphone jack from your MP3 player and plug into this and have a portable music system, or the little Hipbox has a USB slot and an SD card slot. So any music you have on either of those media, you can then plug those in, take it to the beach, to the office, and play your tunes anywhere you go. It's a nice little design. It comes in 4 different colors. And as I said, it really is good looking, and I was quite surprised that it would be under $40.
Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk about computers, the internet, yes, cell phones. That's where all the tech stuff's happening these days. Camcorders. Although I don't see many camcorders being sold in the future. Maybe 3D camcorders. I think everybody's using their digital camera, so we'll talk about digital photography. Home theater for sure. Scott Wilkinson's coming up at 33 after the hour to talk about home theater and CES. Everything with a chip in it. My number is 888-827-5536. That's toll free. Easier to remember is 8888 Ask Leo. That's why we spent a lot of money. I don't know what we spent. That's why we have that number. 8888 Ask Leo. That's toll free in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., and I know we get callers all the time from all around the world. You can just use Skype out to call that number. It won't cost you a penny. It is my understanding anyway. 8888 Ask Leo. Back from the Consumer Electronics Show. This is going to be a phone call show. We're going to take a lot of calls on this show. Don't worry. I know I didn't take any last week, and I apologize, but I thought it was kind of fun to see what was cool, new, and different at this CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. We had some fun, didn't we? Pretty amazing stuff. Of course, the big story of CES wasn't even at CES. It was Apple and Verizon getting hitched. Yes, you can finally buy an iPhone on Verizon starting February 10th. Be very interested to see how that changes things. I was surprised from day one, to be honest, that Apple did that exclusive deal with AT&T, and here we are almost 4 years later. Finally, you can get an iPhone on another carrier. AT&T has to, AT&T made a lot of money, as did Apple, on the iPhone. A lot of money. I don't know how many, 50 million sold, something like that, 80 million. It was a huge number. A lot of profit. A lot of new customers. In fact, at one point, something like 80% of the people's buying iPhones were new customers. I mean, it was really a good deal for AT&T in that respect. But don't you think they took a pretty big hit publicity-wise? Are they not now the most hated wireless carrier in the nation? They weren't when they started. I can promise you that. What's that worth? There is definitely a trade-off. And I think, for now, there's a lot of love for Verizon. People are going, oh, Verizon is going to solve all those problems, the dropped calls, the lousy service, the limited reception. Is it? We shall see. Wouldn't it be interesting if all of a sudden, because so many people moved their iPhones to the Verizon network got very sluggish, and AT&T, with the lighter load, suddenly got fast and easy. I think the folks at Verizon must be thinking about that. And it's certainly true that, Android users use a lot of data too. Really, it's not, I don't think it's just the iPhone. I think what it is people with smartphones, these are little computers, and they're using the data part of the little computer like crazy. So it's not much of a surprise, really, that there's such heavy use. But on the other hand, maybe, AT&T in the last 4 years of pain has spent a lot, and I know they have spent a lot of money on fixing their service, improving their network, and maybe in the next 6 months you're going to see the results of that, and all of a sudden, what is it Nietzsche said? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Maybe AT&T, with all this suffering, has gotten stronger. I love this. It's so much fun. We shall see. We shall see. We'll know in the next 6 months whether, here's what I'm looking to see, whether the iPhone 4's antenna problems were a function of Apple or AT&T, whether AT&T, in fact, itself is just burdened by the iPhone and without the iPhone does better, whether Verizon, which has had an incredible network and is now rolling out the super fast 4G LTE everywhere, and whether Verizon comes out smelling like a rose after getting the iPhone, the phone that sinks carriers. It'll all be very interesting. Now, if you are a Verizon customer and you've been waiting, you've been saying, oh, finally the iPhone is here. Oh, hallelujah. Can I don't want to rain on your parade. Just one, but this is my job. One little thing to think about. You've been waiting for years. That's the question I got asked most often for the last year is, when is the iPhone coming to Verizon? So there's a lot of people who, without thinking, will just say, good, it's here. I'm getting it. That's it. It's done. February 3rd, I'm pre-ordering. February 10th, I'm picking it up. I am going. But wait. How are you going to feel? I asked this question yesterday, and I'd like to hear what you think. How are you going to feel, you Verizon iPhone 4 buyers, signing up for an iPhone 4 for 2 years, 2-year commitment? How are you going to feel if in June the iPhone 5 comes out. Less than 6 months, the iPhone 5 comes out. And you got the iPhone 4, and it'll be $500 to upgrade, please. Thank you very much. How are you going to feel? Maybe, this is just what I'm posing the question. You can call me and let me know, 8888 Ask Leo. Maybe the right thing to do would be just sit on your hands. I know it's hard. Oh, believe me. I am the kind of the poster child for somebody who, in fact, is not good at this, who says, oh, no, I'm going to hold off. I won't buy that iPad. I won't buy that Apple MacBook Air. I won't buy that camera. I'm just going to, no, I'm going to, and then, of course, 2 days later, I buy it. Yeah. So, but I just want you, if you can, to sit on your hands. If you could wait, Apple, and by the way, I don't know if there's going to be an iPhone 5. I don't know when Apple's going to announce it. I can only say, it's like, well, it's what we call inductive reasoning. Not deductive, but inductive reasoning. The sun has come up in the east and set in the west every day I can remember, so it will probably do so tomorrow. Apple has released, this is the inductive reasoning, Apple has released an iPhone every year like lockstep since June 2007, roughly, May, what are the dates exactly? I'm not sure. But roughly that time frame, every single year, iPhone 1, the original, the iPhone 3G, the iPhone 3GS, like lockstep, a year apart, the iPhone 4. So here we are, year 5. It seems to me that there will be a new iPhone. And it will come out probably June. Now, here's some question marks. 1, maybe it'll only come out on AT&T. Then you'd really feel bad, wouldn't you? Maybe Verizon won't even have it. Maybe Verizon will say, oh, no, we'll get ours in January because it's every year, or February because it's every year. Maybe that'll happen. Maybe the iPhone 5, or whatever they call it, maybe it'll be the 4.1. It won't be so cool, and there'll be nothing new, and so you'll go, I don't really need it. Or maybe it'll come out in June, and it will be because the current Verizon iPhone doesn't support this hot Verizon 4G network. Maybe it'll be this is what I think. It'll be a 4G phone on Verizon. Now, how do you feel? 4.5 months later, 5.5 months later, there's not only there's a new iPhone, but it supports the fast Verizon network that's going to be in 245 cities by the end of the year. Now, how do you feel? I'm thinking it might be good to wait. That's just me. The good news is it is finally on Verizon, and you will have that as an opportunity. You certainly should wait until you get that free upgrade. I mean, if you're close to your 2-year wait. And when will Apple announce this new iPhone? I don't know. If they announce it, I don't know. They might do it next month. I don't think they need to pre-announce as much as they did the first one, because remember, they were really keeping a lid on everything. Maybe they want to do it again. They didn't want anybody, they announced the phone right when they submitted to the FCC for approval, because the FCC leaks like a sieve. It's probably even public for that matter. I don't know. So as soon as they release it to the FCC, then we know about it anyway. So when will they announce it? I don't know. June 29th, June 9th, June 8th, June 7th. It's always in June. It's always in June. Thank you, Cortron in the chat room. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. iPhone for Verizon. Are you going to buy it or are you going to wait? I would wait, but it's my counsel to you. But I know some of you just cannot wait. And to be honest, I have an iPhone 4. I'll probably get an iPhone 5 because that's my job, but I'm an Android guy. They're asking me about this new Android Thunderbolt. It's just, as far as I can tell, it's an HTC phone for what is it? It's Verizon, right? The Thunderbolt. Who's doing the Thunderbolt? As far as I can tell, it's basically a Sprint Evo for Verizon. Now, it has an advantage. It's 4G. So, now, if you don't have 4G, 4G is going to be great. 4G is the fast data network that Verizon's rolling out almost everywhere. But it's not out in your area. It may not be something to worry about, right? Only if it's in your area should you even think about it. But if it is in your area, I would absolutely look at a 4G phone, which is not the iPhone 4. I think the Thunderbolt is probably the best choice on Verizon if you have 4G in your neighborhood. They're also doing a Motorola Droid Bionic, the Bionic, which will have 4G. They all have hotspots. That's nice. That means you can use your fast network and turn your phone into a Wi-Fi hotspot, but you will have to plug it in. I think the Bionic looks pretty awesome. Both the Bionic and Thunderbolt have Android 2.2, and that's absolutely the minimum version of Android I'd accept at this point. I am an Android fan, so there you go. That's my take on that. Let's go to the phones. 8888 Ask Leo's the number to South Haven, Minnesota. Our first call of the day is Ryan. Hey, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing good, Leo.
You called a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, well, about a month ago or so, I think. I have an answer to one of your questions that you had on. Remember, a caller called in about his Alpine radio, and he supposedly had a 256 gig flash drive.
I think we solved that one. He got that eBay ripoff, is what he got.
But I know the reason why it ain't working on his Alpine radio. In order for a flash stick drive to work on an Alpine radio in the car, is it has to be in FAT32 format.
Right.
And he probably had it in NTFS.
No, that's not why it wasn't working, Ryan. It wasn't working because it wasn't anything but a piece of plastic. There are no 256 gig flash drives, certainly not for the $25 he spent. He bought it on eBay. It was a ripoff. That's why it didn't work. Phil in Dallas, I think we solved that one at the time, as a matter of fact. Hey, Phil, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, it's such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
I've been watching you for years, and it's just so exciting to finally talk to you. I was wondering what type of recommendations you can have for remote desktops for the iPad. I'm a student. I'm trying to actually use the iPad specifically only the iPad for my whole time at college.
Wow.
And even though the iPad can do a lot of stuff, there are just some things that it can't do. Like this semester, I'm taking a programming course, which will entail compiling code,
right.
And I need to use the computer for that.
And you need to use what kind of computer, a Windows or a Mac?
Windows.
Okay. In fact, this is actually kind of interesting because you can run Windows on an iPad, but only by using a remote desktop that logs you in to a Windows machine. And there are VNC choices on the Mac. There's quite a few choices. I would say that the best choices are based on VNC, although there are some RDP. That's the Windows protocol. There are some RDP programs. The nice thing about RDP is you wouldn't have to run anything on your Windows machine. It would automatically work with Windows XP Professional, Vista, or Windows 7. It would not work with Home Edition. But if you had the professional version, it would work because RDP is built into it.
Well, I have Windows 7, and I see John in the chat room. He's saying Splashtop Remote, which I do have for the iPad, but I can only use it if on the same network that my computer's on.
Oh, so, I see. You want to log in over the internet?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're at a school. You may have some difficulty if the desktop. Well, are you going to be on a Wi-Fi network at the school, or are you going to be not even at the school?
Either a Wi-Fi network at the school or
the school's probably going to prevent you from doing remote access outside of their network. They may even prevent you from doing remote I mean, that's a security vulnerability, right? I would say, I don't have a lot of experience with this, but I would say your best bet. There are some choices like Log Me In, but I would say your best bet is to use VNC, which is an open protocol, and one of the VNC clients. And there are a number of them, and they shouldn't be too expensive on the iPad because it's kind of an open standard. I would take a look. It's too bad you can't try before you buy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's one of the real drawbacks on the Macintosh. And some of these programs are $30 or $40. iTeleport, which is based on VNC. I think they might call it Jaadu, Jaadu. They have an RDP version. iTeleporter is popular. Log Me In does one. There is if you had Citrix. Now, see, in a corporate environment, a lot of the corporate remote access folks use a Citrix server. If you had Citrix at your Windows environment, I don't know if you do it at your school, that would probably be the best way to do the Citrix receivers. I think it's free on the iPad. But you have to have Citrix running on the other end.
Right.
Ronald, as you see in the chat room, is saying screens. I tell you, the problem is these are, you're going to be spending $20 or $30 to try them. I don't have a lot of experience of them. Screens is $20. It is VNC based. VNC will go outside, go across the internet if they don't block it. And that's another issue. You have to kind of port forward, and since you don't have access to the router, I think this is unlikely to work.
Okay, well, I'll see what I can find.
I'm sorry, Phil. Yeah, usually a college especially is going to block remote access. They're not going to open up those ports.
Right.
Even if you open it on your computer, the router is going to block it. They don't. That's what school are you going to?
The University of Texas at Dallas.
UT Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good techie school. I would say here's the thing to do is to go to the IT department and ask them.
Okay.
Say, what do you recommend? Here's my deal. Now, they may say, we don't support iPads. We don't believe in iPads. But I bet you'll find somebody in there who says, oh, yeah, this is what I've been using, and it works with our network. It has to work with your network. That's the issue. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy here. Scott Wilkinson is our home theater guy. Recovered from CES, Scott?
Oh yeah, I'm recovered.
That's
I did bring home a bit of the trade show crud, I'm afraid.
Everybody seems to get sick, but it's when you get 180,000 people in the same room, it seems inevitable that if only it takes a couple of them to have a cold or a cough, and then we're all sick. I was lucky. I took it very easy, and I felt fine coming back, and I have to say it's the most fun I've had in a while at a CES. It was really quite enjoyable.
It was a lot of fun. I had a great time, especially walking around the floor with you for my Home Theater Geeks episode that last Friday.
That was really great.
It was, but man, elbowing your way through the crowd
was definitely the most crowded CES I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. It indicated to me that at least for the CE industry, the economy is coming back pretty strong.
Yeah, which is weird because the rest of the economy is still tanking.
Well, I'm not sure if I agree with that. We certainly still have very high unemployment, which is bad. Well,
yeah, especially if you're one of the unemployed people.
Yeah, that's very bad. I agree, and that isn't improving, and I'm sad to say that.
It is weird, isn't it, that the tech industry
stock market's back up, and the tech industry seems to be doing pretty well.
It's weird. I don't understand it, frankly.
All those booths that we trekked across.
Who's buying this stuff?
Good question.
So, Scott, we did see a bunch of interesting stuff. Did you want to talk about anything from CES, or are you ready to move on?
I'm kind of ready to move on, although I do want to mention one thing about CES. On my website, ultimateavmag.com, on the home page, down a little ways now, I got a great photo of you.
Oh, thank you.
And it's you listening to the Sonic Emotion 3D audio thing.
That was the last thing we saw.
One of the very last things.
And it might have been one of the most interesting things we saw.
Yeah, I thought so too. So if you go to the homepage and you scroll down, you'll see a great picture of Leo posing for the camera.
Oh, I don't know what. Now I'm worried about what I was doing. I remember doing that. This was Sonic Emotion makes a chip that right now Kobe, which is kind of a low-end company, is using in their sound bar.
And Hire as well, another relatively low-end company.
IER. Hire's is going to be $350 available later. Kobe's is around $100. And I was blown away by how good these sounded.
Yeah. It really expands the sound field to fill the entire room and eliminates what's called the sweet spot. So you can be anywhere in the room and hear basically the same sound.
So they had the demo they had was a big red button that you'd push. It would go back to stereo, just plain old stereo coming out of the sound bar. And frankly, the sound bar by itself, these are cheap devices, don't sound that good.
It didn't sound that good.
Then you release the button and it goes back, the Sonic Emotion chip kicks in and it goes back to this sound stage that is all around you. And I was really quite impressed.
I was too. I gave them some good coverage there because I was impressed. So that was that was.
Now
really
you've
exciting.
heard a lot of sound bars. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Is this a significant breakthrough here?
I think so. I think so. Now, SRS has been doing what they call front-rendered surround, most people call simulated surround, out of sound bars for quite some time.
And that's what this is simulated?
Yes, exactly right. But they're using a different technique. Instead of using phase differences and what's called beam steering, which is taking a sound wave and aiming it in a certain direction to bounce off the walls, say, they're using something called wave field synthesis, which was actually invented or considered by Christian Huygens in the 18th century. And only recently, people have started using it to create, basically you take a bunch of little drivers, such as are in a soundbar, and it creates a much larger wave front, as if it were a much bigger driver.
It was pretty impressive, I have to say.
It was very impressive.
It took very inexpensive sound gear and made it sound
made it a lot better. So
and I wonder how it would sound if Polk or somebody licenses this chip and suddenly puts it in something that's got some pretty good speakers behind it.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Great question. I look forward to finding out.
What else?
Well, let's see. I wanted to let you know that I went last night to hear the LA Philharmonic play Mahler 9, which was fantastic. And it brings up this week's poll question, which is, can recorded music ever be indistinguishable from live?
Now, we've talked about that, and I think it's a very interesting question. You said, as a musician, you don't like recordings because you're used to sitting right in there and being part of the sound, and it's never as good on a recording.
Well, I wouldn't say I don't like recordings. That may be a slight misrepresentation. I do like recordings.
But you're not an audiophile for that reason.
I'm not an audiophile, and I've never claimed to be.
Because it can't ever get that good.
That's right. That's exactly right. Now, on this poll question this week, I've had some interesting comments from people, because my question really was, is it even theoretically possible?
Yeah, if price were, I mean, we know people who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on their stereo system.
Oh, yeah.
Are they approximating the sound of live music?
And the other question, the ancillary question is that even the goal of audiophilia or recorded music, or are they two different things altogether?
Maybe that's the case.
And that really sort of is the case. And it used to be, in the early days, recordings were meant to capture and reproduce the live performance as much as possible. Nowadays, I think it's the other way around. Most artists make studio recordings and then try to replicate that as closely as possible on their concert tours, which are primarily to promote the sales of the recording. So we've come full circle in that sense.
It's the recording is the performance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the worst case of that was, remember Milli Vanilli?
they couldn't perform. They had lip syncs.
They were lip syncing.
Yeah.
They were in fact reproducing the recording live.
Somebody else's recording, actually.
Yeah, actually, as it happens.
As it turned out.
Exactly right.
Interesting.
So that's something I'd love for people to weigh in on. The other thing I want to just bring people's attention to is on ultimateavmag.com, we have now started to review 3D Blu-rays. And I wanted to bring this up specifically because, like you...
Because you know it will make me very upset.
Well, I wanted to bring this up for you in particular because, like you, our movie reviewer, David Vaughn, was definitely a 3D doubter.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't think this is the great thing. I think it's a gimmick. He said all the things you said.
Right.
Then he got a JVC DLA RS40 projector. Which is a 3D projector, and he sprung for the glasses. And he wasn't going to even buy the glasses. And his wife said, no, you should buy the glasses. So he bought 4 pairs of glasses.
Well, wait a minute. He wouldn't even be able to see the 3D without the glasses.
Yeah, no, that's right. He wasn't even interested in 3D.
He said, I hate it so much, I'm not going to, that's it.
I'm not even going to do it. The JVC projector is great for 2D as well. Really good, in fact. And he wasn't even going to spend the money on the glasses. But his wife and his daughter are big 3D proponents, or they like it a lot, and they said, no, you're going to buy those glasses. So, of course, to keep domestic tranquility, he bought the glasses. And now he's a convert. He has sat down, he has watched these 3D movies, and he's blown away. He loves it.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know.
In 6 months. yeah, sure. Everybody likes Baby Ruth candy bars until they have to eat them nonstop. Then talk to me.
Well, this gets us a little bit back to that soundbar Sonic Emotion 3D thing. And my question, we heard a couple minutes of it.
Right. What's it after a while? Is there fatigue?
After a while, what's it going to be like? Yeah. That's the what I call the ear candy effect.
Yes, and I think 3D is eye candy. I think it's exactly the same effect, isn't it?
It is. It is. And even so, I agree with you that it is eye candy. And if that's all there was to see, then people might get tired of it. But it's going to be a long time.
Scott Wilkinson, Editor-in-Chief, Ultimate AV Mag. We'll talk again next week. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. George in Houston, Texas. Hey, George. Leo Laporte here.
Hello, yes.
How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm very well.
I got a Roku streaming box for Netflix movies, and it works quite well, and I'm concerned about two things since I'm limited as to how much I can stream with my Comcast. I get 250 gig.
Yeah. Oh, suddenly that 250 gigs is, Comcast said, oh, no. 99% of our customers never go anywhere near that number.
Yes. So far, I'm watching it very carefully, but I have two questions. For an hour of Netflix streaming, how many gigs do you think that would be?
That's a good question.
And I also when I have the thing on pause, am I still streaming?
You are not.
Okay.
So it's only when you're actually watching the movie, but you're basically every streaming file is a download. So you're exactly right to be concerned about that. And I think when Comcast said that 99% of its customers use less than 250 gigs a month, it was a little disingenuous of them. They knew better. They knew that, now. But what why else would Comcast put that cap on? Because they saw it coming. They said, uh-oh. And by the way, why would Comcast care about you watching Netflix movies? Oh, wait a minute. They don't make any money on that, do they?
No. Huh.
They want you to pay for HBO, dude. They don't want you to watch Netflix. That's taking money out of their pocket. You're buying those bits at wholesale, not at retail. They want you to pay the premium cost for the premium content. So I believe Netflix is quoting, and I think this sounds about right, roughly a gigabyte an hour in high def.
Oh, okay. So probably but less than that, of course, for standard def.
Right. So I'm looking at the Netflix blog. This is actually a great post from a couple of years ago, and so it may have changed. But it's Neil Hunt, Chief Product Officer for Netflix. So he talks about their encoding. He says, we encode content at 500 kilobits, 1,000 kilobits, 1,600, and 2,200 kilobits, using something called variable bit rate recording, which means, in other words, that it could go up or down depending, the maximum is the 500, 1,000, 1,600. He says some titles where the source quality merits, now this is 2008, and I would have guessed this is, more titles now because more high-def titles are out there, have been encoded at 3,400 kilobits. And so now they're using their newer stuff as Silverlight, which is a little bit more efficient. And in the Silverlight stuff, they go up to 1,500 kilobits per second. In the high definition, they may go as high as 3,800 kilobits per second. So you could do the math. You could see that it doesn't. And when they go, by the way, to 1080p, they're right now 720p. It'll go up even more. So that number, and then also depends on the audio. If it's audio, is it in stereo or not? It depends on so many things. But I would say probably if you're watching a lot of HD, you're probably doing around a gigabyte an hour. So that's 250 hours a month if that's all you're doing is watching Netflix. How many hours a night do you watch Netflix? If it's a movie a night, that would be about 1/4 of your allotment.
Oh, okay. So I should...
You're okay. But now remember, I am a streaming video broadcaster. I do a radio show on the weekends, but my bread and butter, my day job, if you will, is streaming content on the internet and high quality video. And you can watch my content and use a gigabyte an hour as well. And my content is 24/7. So you could be watching 8 hours a day of my video very easily and use up your 250 gigabytes, boom, like that. So, yes, you're right. If it's just Netflix, you're okay. But there's a lot of other stuff nowadays that you're doing, and Comcast is completely aware of this. And essentially, this cap, they could make the argument, well, it's to protect, the normal user from the bandwidth hog. The problem is we are all becoming bandwidth hogs because we love watching streaming video.
Yes, there's other things on the Roku box, the radio station.
There's YouTube, for crying out loud.
Wow.
If you have teenagers, they probably spend 4 hours a night watching YouTube. Wow. And that's also pretty high quality. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, you just keep an eye on it. You'll know. I don't think, George, it's going to be an issue right now, but it's definitely that's the train coming down the line.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah. Comcast, look, this is the whole net neutrality debate. Comcast. Now, I talked to somebody at CES. This is very interesting. The guy who wrote VisiCalc, Bob Frankston, who is a great guy, worked at Microsoft for a while. He's the guy you can thank for network address translation and routers, which means that the cable company or the internet service provider couldn't charge you for each computer. They wanted to. They wanted to charge you an internet access fee for each computer. They can't because of NAT. You could thank Bob for that. It was his idea. He snuck it in. He knew what was going on, but he snuck it in. Cable companies are getting smarter now. He says Comcast, the reason Comcast wants to buy NBC is they know that ultimately they're in trouble, that the customers will force them to sell low-cost bits instead of high-cost premium content. In other words, just give me the internet. I can watch anything I want. I don't need you, Comcast, for HBO, Showtime, the local channel. I don't need you. That's coming, isn't it? So he said that what's happening is companies like Comcast are rapidly trying to acquire content companies and get out of the cable business. That's an interesting thought. Meanwhile, they're going to make sure that their business doesn't decay too quickly by putting caps on, by limiting how much you can use these high bandwidth services, all in the name of better service for all, but really what it's all about is protecting their premium content, in my opinion. Thanks. I'm glad you brought that up. I really am. Steve's in Los Angeles. Hey, Steve. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good morning, good afternoon, whatever. How are you?
Hey. Hey. I'll just say the neutral. Hey. What's up, Steve?
Hey. All right, so my birthday was on Friday, and my kids got me an iPad.
Oh, you have some nice kids. That is a great gift.
Rich kids, I know.
Yeah.
So we haven't opened it yet because I'm thinking that the next iPad is coming soon.
Well, soon, I don't know. The next iPad is coming, but it came out in April, right? Or no, they announced it in January, and they shipped it in May. So Apple, and by the way, no one knows. Don't believe anything anybody says. Apple's not saying. Anybody who says they know is making it up. It's rumors. But if Apple is true to form, and I expect they will be, there will be a new iPad. We don't know what it'll have, and it will be in the next, say, 4 months, I would say. However, I have no, do you want to send it back and wait till April?
No, but if it was going to be end of January.
No, it's not going to be end of January. It will not be till April at the earliest. It came out April 3rd, 2010. Apple may announce it in January. I don't think they will. I don't think that they're going to announce it until it's ready, and I think it will not be ready till April. If Apple's true to form, no one knows. Tell you what, though, I will talk about, Steve, when we come back, what the new iPad might have. Let's see. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk about tech, you know. Computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, anything with a chip in it. Coming up at 33 after the hour, Chris Marquardt, our photo guy. We'll talk about our photo assignment, get some photo tips, too. Digital photography, the topic. One of my favorite topics, actually. It's really great how... I think when we were taking film pictures, it was hard to become a good photographer for a couple of reasons. The expense is one. I mean, the cameras aren't any cheaper these days. They weren't any cheaper then. They're roughly the same. But the cost of buying, developing, and printing film is huge. So that's certainly part of it. I remember when I was, coming up, learning photography, and we were still using the film in order to keep the cost down. Because really, the way to get good is to take a lot of pictures. A lot. I mean, that's how you get good. You take a lot of pictures, and you look at them, and you're critical with them. And so we would roll our own black and white film. You'd buy it in bulk. You'd buy canisters. You had a black bag that you'd stick your hands into because no light can come anywhere near this film, right? You'd open the film, bulk film, without looking at it. You're not looking at it. It's all by touch. You've got your hand in this black bag. You'd open the bulk film, and you'd roll it into the little canisters, the 35-millimeter spools that the camera required. Cap it, put it in. Remember those little plastic film canisters? You younger folks don't, but us old timers do. And you put it in there, cap it. Now no light's getting in, and you do all of that. Then you can open the bag, and you've got film. And if you did that, and you developed it yourself, black and white wasn't so hard to do that. You have to have the chemicals in a darkroom, and printed it yourself. Maybe it'd cost about a penny a print. So you could take a lot. You could afford to take a lot of pictures. But it was a lot of work. And that's only part of it. The other thing that digital does for you is it gives you a look at your picture. Not the best. It's a small look, but at least a look at your picture right away. So you have almost instant feedback. And again, the way you get good is by taking a lot of pictures, looking at them critically, getting that feedback, iterating over and over and over again. Lather, wash, repeat. And digital is perfect for that. And it's one of the reasons I think that people are getting better and better. And now so many amateurs are just great photographers. Because we can do that now with digital photography. We have a chance to take a picture and look at it. And as you get better with the technology, there's some nice feedback. For instance, a lot of photographers, a lot of pros suggest that when you're using a digital camera, you turn on, some cameras will do this, a histogram that will show you the distribution of light. Really, there are two primary skills to photography. One is composition, the eye, seeing something and composing that image in an interesting way. And the other is exposing it properly. the pure technical matter of getting the picture right. Composition and exposure. You get that down, you're halfway there. Maybe you're farther, 3/4 of the way there. So having that histogram, instant feedback after you take a picture and looking at it on the back of your camera and saying, oh, that was overexposed or underexposed, whether your eye can see it or not, you can look at that graph and say, oh, yeah, that's not quite right, and adjust it right there. So I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot better photographers. We already are. Now, does that devalue the great photographers? No, it just means that to be a well-known photographer, you can't just be good. You've got to be fantastic. You've got to be really good. So I think we're seeing a lot more good pictures coming out of coming out of us amateurs, but the greats are still great. They have that eye. They have that knack. And they have one more thing that doesn't come down to composition and exposure. They have one more thing. Patience, persistence, doggedness, determination. I've worked with some very good photographers. And one of the biggest differences between me and them is I'll look at something, hey, that's a great shot. I'll take the picture, and then I'll move on. They stop. They wait till the light's just right. They're willing to get up at 4 in the morning so they can be at that mountaintop when the sun comes up. They're willing to camp under a bridge for just the perfect moment. They have the dogged determination, the persistence to get the shot. They can see it in their mind. Sometimes that's called pre-visualization. They know what they want, and they're willing to wait it out. I have hanging on the wall of my studio right now, I'm looking at it, an amazing photograph from a friend of mine, Scott Bourne, who's a brilliant, brilliant professional photographer. It's called Cranes in the Fire Mist. And he took it at a birding reservation, where birds go, they're safe, and their beautiful cranes go there to nest. And he's been going there every year, and he had in his mind the shot he wanted. And it was never quite right, so he'd go back year after year after year. He had the talent, He had the technology. He had the technique. He had all the parts of the puzzle, but he also had the persistence to keep coming back, knowing exactly what he was looking for. That composition was his mind, and when he got that shot, he knew. He said, the minute I pressed that shutter, I knew finally, after years, I got the picture. And I'm looking at it right now, and he's right. It's spectacular. It's perfection. And because he had that persistence, he just kept coming back. So, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it, but I have to say digital cameras have really leveled the playing field in so many ways. We were going to talk about the iPad 2. Now, there's the question number one is, should you wait? Somebody in the chat room said, Leo, you're always wrong. And I thought, well, that's good. If you have the confidence, the faith that I am always wrong in this matter, then just do the opposite of what I say. And here's what I'm saying. Don't wait. Because it's going to be, I predict, a few months, probably April. Apple's pretty consistent about releasing these things on a yearly calendar before we see iPad 2, if we see iPad 2. But I think we'll see it, and I think we'll see it in April. Those are 3 or 4 months that you could be using an iPad, getting the most out of it, buying applications, enjoying yourself before the next one comes out. Why waste those 4 months? By the way, all the apps you buy, all the music you buy on that iPad, they transfer over to the new iPad. The only difference will be the hardware. Now, what would a new iPad have that would make it desirable hardware? Well, I think there's one thing we know it has to have, and that's a camera. Probably, in all likelihood, a front and back-facing camera. Now, I have to point out, we've said that about Apple products before. Everybody was sure that the iPod Touch would have a camera 3 years ago. It just got one. So Apple doesn't always do what everybody says they're going to do. But currently, everybody says a camera. If that's important to you, yeah, it might be worth waiting. If that's the reason you're going to get an iPad, it might be worth waiting. I don't think that's worth waiting for. I have a pretty good camera on my iPhone. I have a pretty good camera in my pocket. I have a pretty good camera over my shoulder. Do I need one on the iPad? Nah. It might be smaller. Probably will be smaller. But remember, a lot of the size in the iPad is dedicated to battery. That's almost all battery. That's why it gets 10 hours battery life. And I haven't seen any advance in the battery technology in the last year that would mean you could make it smaller without reducing hours of battery time. Nor have I seen any advances that would encourage me to think that they can go past 10 hours. So I doubt there'll be a dramatic reduction in size or a dramatic increase in battery life. Will there be a better screen? It's possible. You know, they put that beautiful Retina display, very high-resolution screen on the iPhone 4. Putting it on the iPad, though, that's a big 10-inch screen, could cost a lot of money. Remember, Apple is really working to keep that iPad at about $500 starting price. I don't expect Apple to allow that price to go up in order to put a better screen in. So there's some question in my mind whether you'll see a better screen. In other words, I don't know if there's going to be massive improvements in iPad 2. Enough to wait for? I don't think so. I really don't think so. So there's my take on it. If you believe I'm always wrong, then do the opposite. Go out and don't buy one and wait. Faster processor? Maybe. Maybe. Apple loves that A4 processor they designed, so I'm not sure we'll see that either. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. For great camera advice at an unbelievably low price, it's Chris Marquardt, the photo guy. Chris does a great show, which everyone should subscribe to if they want to know more about photography, called Tips from the Top Floor at tfttf.com. But you can also find out about everything Chris does at his website, Chris Marquardt, MarQuardt.com. You know what? We have it all at our website, techguylabs.com.
Yeah, or at any of the other 12 websites.
You got way too many. Now, Chris has, speaking of another website, you got, you're going to be back this summer for some more camera workshops, right?
I will be back in the U.S. in summer to hold some more photography workshops. One in San Francisco. This time we'll do fire and night shooting. So it's one that suits my day and night rhythm pretty well.
Fire and night shooting. Wow.
Fire and night. There will be one in Washington, D.C. That's the first. We'll do some beautiful shooting there and some workflow. And the other side of photography. That's where you kind of make the picture as opposed to just taking a picture. And we will, I'll be back in Toronto, Canada as well.
Oh, good.
September.
Now, where do people find out more about that?
discoverthetopfloor.com. That's the best address for that.
Great. So, we have some photos to review.
We have some photos to review.
Once again, I have failed.
Guess who else has?
To submit entries to my own darn assignment. Darn it, darn it, darn it. What was the assignment this time?
The assignment was lights.
Just lights. Any kind of lights.
No, three things this time. Nothing.
No iron photographer.
No iron photographer. No mistakes to be made. But people handed in awesome pictures. It was a really tough choice this time to get something to make the choice of the three pictures I want to review. And I chose three pictures that are all kind of on the abstract side, but they are all special in their own way. And as I said, it was difficult. So I chose the theme within the assignment, and I chose three abstract ones. And I've sent you the link so you can.
I have them in front of me, and we'll put them in the show notes as well as we go along.
So let's look at the first one. It's called Winter Halo by Patrick Stanbro. And it's one of those, I'm not sure, have you ever seen that phenomenon that when you look up in the sky at night and there's a certain kind of layer of cloud, or I think very cold, icy kind of clouds in front of the moon, that you get a very round shape around the moon, a big halo?
Yeah. It's a pretty effect. And he's used this quite well, I think.
It is a pretty effect, and it's just the picture is a very good reminder, first of all, that you don't just have to look around you. Just look at places where you wouldn't usually look sometimes, and you'll be able to sometimes find really great stuff. And this one he took by using a long exposure. You can actually see that in there are some star streaks on there, and the clouds that move in front of the moon.
That's true, huh? So this is definitely, maybe 10, 15, 30 seconds?
Probably longer. So you start getting star streaks at about the 15 to 20 second limit. So it's actually, the Earth moves pretty fast. So you will have to take very short pictures with a higher ISO if you want to get like very crisp stars. But he deliberately took a long one. I would say half a minute, maybe a minute, something along that range.
Well done, Patrick. Thank you for a beautiful image, I think.
Then the next one with a bit of a less speaking title is called DSC_4341.
You hate that when that happens. I know you do.
I don't like that. I all my pictures have titles. I don't like the default file name to be the title. It's just, and this one deserves a good title. Look at the picture. That is, well, what is it?
It's lights.
It's lights, and it's out of focus.
It's kind of pinky lights, out of focus.
Yeah. So what that is it is lights behind the focus area of the camera. So it's the out of focus, the so-called bokeh area.
B-O-K-E-H.
B-O-K-E-H in English, and in Japanese it's B-O-K-E, which sort of translates to out of focus. and you see what happens. Depending on the lens and on the aperture and some of the mechanics in the lens design, you will again get sharp-edged circles. But those are point light sources in the background. Probably some Christmas lights or something.
It kind of looks, it looks like an undersea. It's very abstract. So there you go. And it's a pretty color, and composition's
it's very pleasing
good.
To my eye.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you got a lot of pictures like that.
A few, yeah. And again, I chose the more abstract ones. There were very, very regular pictures in there as well, with beautiful reflections where you could really tell that's what it is. But this one I kind of liked. The next one is very, very interesting. That's by Kate in Oregon, called Christmas Lights.
And by the way, not with a fancy camera?
Nope, not at all.
Just a point and shoot?
That was taken with a Kodak point and zoom.
Yeah.
But she did something else. She got really creative. She writes that in the description. She took this photo of her Christmas tree through a pair of cardboard snowflake kaleidoscope glasses.
Oh, brilliant. I know those glasses.
So they turn the point light sources of the Christmas tree into little snowflakes.
They turn every light into a shape. Sometimes I've seen ones for Hanukkah with the Star of David. This one's snowflakes.
And it is, she says the glasses were sold for $195 at the Oregon Zoo a few years ago. So she kept those. And she did some optical trickery with them.
So you don't consider this cheating in any way?
No, not at all.
There's no cheating in photography.
No, it's experimentation. It's fun. I've seen people shoot pictures through sunglasses. I've seen pictures taken through bottles, through Tic Tac boxes, orange ones, that kind of stuff. You can use anything that does something with light, shapes it, distorts it, and use it for creative purposes. And this is an extremely nice example. I really love that.
Thank you, Katie. That's a great one. Some really good pictures. Now, if you go to the Tech Guy Flickr pool, it's FLICKR.com, and you click at the top. If you don't have a Flickr account, it's free to make one. You click at the top and you search for a group. Search for Tech Guy. And then the tag for all of these is lights. You know, the tag is always what the assignment is. And you'll see a whole bunch of just really fantastic images. And we've mentioned a couple, but boy, I tell you, you could have probably picked 20 or 30 out of here.
Absolutely. Wonderful stuff people hand in. But I need to give out a new assignment.
It's time for a new assignment, folks.
and I'll make this one an easy one again. I will move it around in the future, but this is an easy one again. The assignment for this time is liquid.
Liquid. Now, I happen to be going, you did this for me because I happen to be going on a sea cruise. So if I can't come back with a picture of liquid, I am not doing my job.
You're not talking about the bar, are you?
Oh, hey, who needs a cruise? Just go to a bar. Liquid's everywhere. Chris Marquardt. So that's it. So here's what you do. You need a Flickr account. It's free to make one if you've got a Yahoo account. You already have one. FLICKR.com. Search for Tech Guy in the groups area, and then join that group. It's free to join. Orbit Gal will welcome you. You'll see right on the front page of that group, you'll see the parameters for the new assignment. Usually what we want you to do is tag your photo with whatever it is, in this case, liquid. Once a week, you can upload another photo, and then Chris will look through them. These are assignments, not competitions. However, Chris does have something to give you. He has an iPhone app. What's the name of that app?
Oh, yeah, it's called Pocket Chris, and it's a little app that teaches you photography. It's
if you want it, the first 10 people to email him get one. What's the email address?
It's chris@pocketchris.com. First 10 people get one.
Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Thank you, Chris.